They say pride can build walls taller than love can climb. But when life turns, it never knocks first. This, this is the story of Camille Adesina, the woman whose beauty was her crown, and Tayo, the man she once thought was beneath her. Until the night life turned the tables. Camille walked through the golden glass doors of the Monarch Hotel, her heels clicking like a melody of authority. At 28, she was everything people envied. The PR manager for one of Lagos's most exclusive firms, the face every billboard wanted, and the woman every man wanted to be seen beside. She moved with grace, but her smile was sharp, polished, practiced, powerful. That night, she had no patience for mistakes. Her team was preparing for the annual luxury brand gala, and everything needed to be perfect. But when the elevator doors opened, she froze. There he was, standing in a faded grey shirt, jeans slightly worn, holding a toolbox. Tayo, the last person she expected to see, the one who had once looked at her like she hung the stars. Her heart stuttered, but pride caught it mid-beat. "Maintenance?" she asked, her tone laced with disbelief. He gave a small nod, eyes calm, voice deep and measured. "Yes, ma'am. The hotel called about the light fixtures." She glanced at his calloused hands, his plain uniform, a flash of old memories, nights of laughter, cheap shawarma by the roadside, and promises she never took seriously, rushed through her. Then she straightened. "That's fine, just be quick. This is not a construction site." He didn't reply, just nodded and went to work, silent and steady, as if her words were nothing but wind. But deep inside, she felt the sting, the quiet echo of a man she once dismissed. That night, while Tayo worked in the corner, Camille tried to focus on the upcoming event, but her eyes betrayed her. Every time he reached for a wire or climbed the ladder, she caught herself staring. Not at his clothes, but at his calm confidence. There was something new about him. Still humble, still quiet, but grounded, like a man who had learned to walk through storms and never look back. When he finished, he turned to leave. "Wait," she called out, almost surprising herself. He stopped. "You still fix lights for a living?" she said, with a faint smirk, half teasing, half cruel. Tayo's lips curved slightly. "I fix what people ignore until it breaks." Then he walked away. Her breath caught in her throat. That line, it hit harder than she expected. Later that night, Camille sat alone in her office, staring at her reflection in the glass wall. Behind all the glitter, the power, the fame, she felt a strange emptiness, a hunger not for luxury, but for connection, something real, something like Tayo once gave her before she traded it for status. The next day, during the gala, Tayo appeared again. This time, not as the maintenance man, but as a private guest of one of the event sponsors. He wore a dark-fitted suit that looked made for him, his posture confident, his presence commanding. It made Camille's breath hitch. Their eyes met across the hall, her champagne glass trembled slightly. He didn't look away. Later she found out the sponsor he came with owned Architect, a rising construction and smart home startup, and Tayo was the co-founder. For a moment, the world tilted beneath her heels. The same man she once left because she couldn't imagine a life without luxury had built his own from scratch. Camille smiled tightly, trying to hide the storm behind her eyes. When he approached, she straightened again. "Long time," he said simply. Her lips twitched. "You clean up well." He chuckled softly. "You too. Still chasing perfection?" Her eyes narrowed. "And you're still poetic, I see." He shrugged. "No, just honest." For the rest of the night, Camille couldn't stop thinking. Not about his success, but the way he carried it. Quietly, without bitterness, without showing off. It unsettled her, because for the first time, she wasn't sure who truly had the upper hand. When the gala ended, she stepped outside, the city lights washing over her like guilt. Her driver was late, and the night air felt heavier than usual. Then she heard his voice behind her. "You look lost, Camille." She turned. He stood there, hands in pockets, the moonlight catching the side of his face. "Maybe I am," she whispered. Tayo stepped closer. "Don't be. Some things are only lost because we threw them away." Her eyes glistened. "Is that what you think I did?" He smiled sadly. "You didn't throw me away, Camille. You threw away the version of you that used to love without measuring. She blinked fast, holding back tears. I was young, scared, I wanted stability. You wanted status, he said quietly, then he turned to leave. Her voice broke behind him. Tayo. He paused but didn't turn. Do you hate me? He hesitated, the air heavy between them. No, he said finally, you taught me what love costs when it's one-sided. And then he walked away, leaving her under the glow of the hotel lights. Beautiful, powerful, and completely alone. Sometimes the people we look down on end up standing where we can't reach. But this was just the beginning. Because life wasn't done teaching Camille Adesina about love or humility. Camille didn't sleep that night. She lay on her bed, staring at the ceiling as the memory of Tayo's words replayed in her mind. Every syllable echoed with a truth she had run from for years. You taught me what love costs when it's one-sided. That sentence burned deeper than she expected. By morning, she was at her office early. Coffee in hand, phone in the other, she tried to bury herself in work. But it didn't work. Every time she opened a report, she saw his face. Calm, steady, unreadable. At lunch, her best friend Zara noticed. You've been quiet all morning, Zara said, sipping her smoothie. What's wrong? Camille forced a smile. Nothing, just work. Zara raised a brow. Work doesn't make you stare at your phone like it's going to apologize. Camille sighed, defeated. You remember Tayo? Zara froze mid-sip. The one you dumped for a man with a Range Rover? Please don't start. I'm not judging, Zara said, leaning forward. I'm just shocked. You told me he was, what did you say? Too comfortable with being average. Camille looked down, shame pricking at her chest. He's not average anymore. Zara frowned. Meaning? He's the co-founder of Architect. You know that new construction tech firm that just partnered with Kingsley Holdings? Zara almost choked on her drink. Wait, that Architect? The one that's trending everywhere? You're joking. I wish I was. Zara laughed softly. Camille Adesina, the queen of high standards, got outshined by the man she thought wasn't enough. Life really said plot twist, huh? Camille's lips tightened. It's not funny. I'm not laughing at you, Zara said. I'm laughing at life. But maybe this is your chance to, I don't know, fix things. Camille looked out the window, watching the city move below. He doesn't look like he wants things fixed. That week, fate decided to twist the knife deeper. Her company landed a high-profile client, Architect. When the email came through, Camille just sat there, staring at the name in disbelief. Her boss walked by, beaming. Congratulations, Camille. You'll be leading the pitch meeting next week. Don't mess this up. This deal could redefine our brand. She nodded faintly, hiding the storm building in her chest. The day of the meeting came faster than she wished. Tayo walked into the boardroom in a charcoal suit, his team behind him. He looked different now, sharper, more assured, but still with that quiet strength that used to draw her in. Camille stood to greet him, professional smile in place. Mr. Adigan, welcome. He gave a polite nod. Miss Adesina. It was strange, hearing him use her last name. Once, he used to call her Cammy, his voice soft with affection. Now it was all formality and distance. As the meeting started, she spoke flawlessly. She knew her job, and she knew how to perform under pressure. But somewhere between the numbers and brand strategies, her confidence faltered every time his eyes met hers. When the meeting ended, his team exited first. Tayo lingered. You've improved, Ye, he said, almost as a compliment. I've had to, she replied quietly. The world doesn't wait for anyone. True, he said, but some of us had to build our own world before the old one noticed. Their eyes locked. For a moment, everything else vanished. The walls, the titles, the pride. I'm proud of you, Tayo, she said sincerely. He smiled faintly. That's new. Her chest tightened. You think I can't mean it? I think you only started to mean it when I stopped needing your approval. The words cut deep. But he said them without anger, just honesty. That was what hurt most. As he turned to leave, she spoke again, her voice barely above a whisper. Would you like to catch up sometime? Just talk. He paused at the door. I'll think about it. He didn't look back. That night, Camille stood on her balcony, looking out at the Lagos skyline. The air was warm, heavy with memory. She thought about the days they had shared years ago, cheap meals, bus rides, laughter that didn't need expensive perfume to feel real. She had traded all that for glitter and ended up with emptiness. The next day, she sent him a message. "I'm sorry for how things ended. You didn't deserve that." Hours passed. No reply. Days later, she attended a business dinner hosted by Architect. The event was packed with politicians, investors, and press. When she walked in, she saw Tayo at the center of it all, confident, admired, respected. A beautiful woman stood beside him. Camille's heart dropped. The woman laughed at something he said, touching his arm lightly. Zara's voice echoed in her head. "Maybe this is your chance to fix things." But now it was clear. The chance had passed. As she turned to leave, Tayo caught her eye. For a brief second, their gazes met. His steady, hers trembling. He gave a polite nod. Nothing more, just a quiet acknowledgement that they now lived in different worlds. Camille forced a smile, turned, and walked away. But as she stepped outside, the tears came. Silent, stubborn tears that burned like regret. She finally understood. Pride had built her empire, but it had cost her her heart. Yet fate wasn't done, because sometimes even broken hearts get one last test and one final chance at redemption. Weeks passed. Camille tried to focus on work, to bury herself in meetings, deadlines, anything that could drown out the memory of that dinner. But her mind betrayed her. Every victory at work felt hollow. Every compliment echoed with absence. She'd finally achieved everything she once dreamed of. Status, respect, success. But now it all seemed like noise. One evening, as she drove home through the shimmering lights of Lagos, she saw something that made her slow down. A large billboard illuminated the skyline. Architect, building Africa's future. Tayo's face was on it, smiling confidently beside his co-founder. Her chest tightened. He was everywhere now. On magazine covers, business shows, interviews. Everyone was talking about the young man who built a tech empire from the ground up. And she had thrown him away when he had nothing. That night, she poured herself a glass of wine and sat by the window. The city outside buzzed with energy, but she felt disconnected, like she was watching life through a screen. Then her phone buzzed. A message. From him. "Camille, can we talk?" Her heart skipped. She stared at the message for minutes before replying. "Of course. When?" "Tomorrow. Same cafe as before." The next day, she arrived early. The cafe was quiet, warm, filled with the scent of coffee and rain from the night before. When Tayo walked in, he looked tired. Not physically, but emotionally. His confidence was still there, but there was a shadow behind it. "Hey," she said softly. "Hey," he replied, taking a seat. They sat in silence for a moment before he spoke. "I didn't come to talk about the past. I just needed to clear my head." "Rough week?" she asked. He nodded. "More like a rough few months." Camille leaned in, studying him. "You look heavy." He laughed dryly. "Success is heavy, Camille, especially when everyone around you starts seeing your worth only in what you've built." Something about that sentence struck her deeply. He looked out the window. "When we were together, I used to think you left because I wasn't enough. But lately I've been wondering if maybe you were just ahead of me. Maybe I needed to lose you to grow up." Camille's throat tightened. "And did you?" "Maybe," he said, looking at her again, "but growth doesn't erase pain. It just teaches you how to hide it better." They talked for hours, about work, about life, about everything except what still lingered unsaid. When he finally stood to leave, Camille felt a strange ache. "Tayo," she said as he reached the door, "can we start over?" He turned, expression unreadable. "You mean as friends?" She hesitated. "As whatever feels right." He looked at her for a long time, then nodded slowly. "We'll see." For the first time in years, she smiled honestly. But fate, cruel and unpredictable, wasn't done twisting their story. A week later, Camille arrived at work to find chaos in the boardroom. Everyone was tense, whispering. Her boss motioned her in. "We just got the report," he said grimly. "Architect's accounts are under investigation, possible fraud and contract manipulation." Camille's blood ran cold. "What?" Her boss nodded, "and Tayo's name is all over it." By afternoon, the story was everywhere. Online, on the news, trending on social media. Architect CEO under investigation for embezzlement. Camille's phone buzzed non-stop. Calls, messages, gossip. She ignored them all. Her heart said one thing: go to him. When she arrived at his apartment, it was already surrounded by reporters. Somehow, she got through the back entrance, where a tired, disheveled Tayo was packing a bag. "Tayo," she called softly. He looked up, exhausted. "You shouldn't be here." "I had to be," he sighed, rubbing his temples. "It's all blown out of proportion. My partner, the same man who smiled beside me on that billboard, he moved company funds without approval, and now he's blaming me." Camille's eyes filled with tears. "Tayo, what are you going to do?" "I don't know," he said, voice breaking slightly. "For years I fought to prove my worth. Now everything I built is turning against me." Without thinking, she stepped forward and held his hand. "Then fight again, but this time you're not alone." He froze, staring at her. "You mean that?" She nodded. "For once, let me be the one standing beside you, not above you." Something shifted in his eyes, a mix of pain and relief, of disbelief and longing. For the first time, he let himself breathe. "I don't know how this ends, Camille. Maybe I lose everything again." She smiled through tears. "Then we start again, like we should have the first time." He laughed weakly, shaking his head. "You always know how to show up when life's burning down." "And you always know how to rise from ashes," she whispered. That night she stayed by his side, as the world outside judged him, as his company crumbled, as the internet tore apart his name. But for the first time, they weren't two people separated by pride. They were two hearts rebuilding something real. Piece by piece, through the ruin. The morning sun broke through heavy clouds, casting soft gold light over the city. But inside Tayo's apartment, the world felt frozen. The television still flickered in the corner, news anchors repeating the same story again and again. Architect CEO faces mounting allegations of fraud and misappropriation. Camille muted it. She turned to where Tayo sat by the window, his elbows on his knees, staring blankly at the skyline he once conquered. His once bright eyes now looked dim, defeated. She walked over and placed a cup of tea beside him. "You need to eat something." He gave a small, humorless laugh. "What for? To have strength to watch my life fall apart in HD?" "Tayo." He looked at her then, tired, wounded, stripped of all pride. "Do you know what it's like, Camille? To give everything you have to build something, and then watch people tear it apart like it never meant anything?" Her heart clenched. "Yes," she whispered. "Different reasons, same feeling." He stared at her for a moment, searching her face, and for the first time she saw something new in his eyes. Not anger, not resentment, just exhaustion. They spent the day going through documents, messages, anything that could help prove his innocence. Camille worked like she was fighting for her own soul. She made calls, reached out to contacts in finance and media, and pieced together the truth. By nightfall, she found it. Buried in an encrypted file was proof that Tayo's partner, Kunle, had rerouted millions into an offshore account, under a fake company name. "Tayo," she said, voice trembling with excitement. "I found it." He turned slowly, disbelief washing over his face. She handed him her laptop. He read the files once, twice, then dropped back into his chair, silent. "It's over," she whispered. "We can prove it wasn't you." For a long moment, Tayo didn't move. Then he stood, walked over to her, and pulled her into a tight embrace. His voice cracked against her ear. "Camille, you saved me." Tears filled her eyes. "No, I'm just trying to do what I should have done years ago. Stand by you." When the truth came out a week later, the entire narrative flipped. News outlets corrected their stories. Kunle was arrested. Tayo was cleared of all charges. He became the symbol of resilience, the man who rose twice from betrayal. At the press conference, Camille stood in the back, watching him speak with calm authority. He didn't mention her name, But when his eyes found hers in the crowd, they both knew. The forgiveness had already begun. Later that evening, they met again at the same cafe, quieter this time, almost serene. "You did it," she said softly. "No," he replied, "we did." There was a silence, the kind that holds both closure and new beginnings. "Tayo," she said, her voice trembling, "I know I can't undo the past. I was proud. I looked down on you when all you ever did was love me. I thought I was choosing security, but I ended up losing something real." He looked at her for a long moment before replying. "I won't lie, Cammy. I hated you for a while, but somewhere along the line I realized you didn't betray me. You betrayed yourself." She blinked, tears spilling freely now. "Do you still hate me?" He shook his head. "No, I forgave you the day I stopped needing revenge." They both laughed softly through tears. He reached across the table, taking her hand. "You know, when we met, I didn't have much to give, but now, if we ever try again, I want it to be because we've both grown, not because we need to fix what's broken." She smiled faintly. "Then maybe, this time, we start slow." Slow sounds perfect. That night, as they walked out into the warm Lagos evening, the streetlights reflected off the wet pavement. Somewhere in the distance, music played, soft, rhythmic, like the heartbeat of a city that never stopped believing in second chances. They didn't hold hands right away. They didn't rush into promises, but they walked side by side, and that was enough. Months passed. Architect bounced back stronger than ever. Camille left her old company and started her own consulting firm, this time with humility as her foundation. She learned to value people over positions, relationships over titles. And though their lives were busy, she and Tayo kept finding each other. Coffee breaks, late-night calls, small dinners without the pressure of the past. Love, when it finally returned, wasn't loud or flashy. It was quiet, patient, earned. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, they stood together on Tayo's balcony, the city lights stretching before them like constellations. Camille rested her head on his shoulder. "You ever think about how everything could have been different?" He smiled gently. "Every day. But then I remember, if we didn't break, we'd never learn how to rebuild." She looked up at him, eyes soft with love. "And do you regret forgiving me?" He shook his head. "No, because forgiveness gave me peace, and peace gave me you." The night breeze carried their laughter away, mingling with the sound of Lagos, alive, restless, and full of stories just like theirs. Because sometimes life isn't about perfect beginnings. It's about imperfect people finding their way back.